1. So this interaction happened last week, but I cannot stop thinking about how rude and crazy it was. So I spent my Sunday evening in the emergency room at the hospital being poked, prodded, scanned, tested, and all that fun stuff. Pneumonia. Again. The good kind that can be treated with regular antibiotics this time, so I didn't have to be admitted. The last time was a real doozy. I had a doctor's appointment the following day I was hoping to be able to do telehealth for, but all they could do was reschedule me for the next day. This is the last place I wanted to be while feeling this bad, but I really needed my medication, or I would have gotten even sicker. But I grabbed a mask and took a seat as far away from other people as I could. Unfortunately, this is a pretty small room, and there's not a lot of seating, so the best I could do was put a small table and an empty seat between this rotting turnip and I. We were on an end cap, therefore no seating to my right, but plenty of open seats elsewhere. They just had people next to them. I had a really bad coughing fit, so when I regained my composure, I turned to her and said, "Just so you know, I have pneumonia, so you might want to get as far away from me as you can." That said, putrid turnip of a woman gave me the dirtiest look I've ever received in my life and said,
"You're not getting my seat. I was sitting here first. You'll have to physically move me, and trust me when I say you don't want to put hands on me."
No, lady, nobody does. I wanted to say, "I don't want your seat, Methica. I just didn't want to expose you to a communicable disease, you dimwit." I'm sadly in this situation a good person. So, instead I said, "You can stay there. I just wanted you to know I'm very ill."
"Not supposed to care?"
she asked. I then said nothing when I should have taken my mask off and coughed, not on her directly, but in her vicinity, because I was getting kind of angry, and even if I didn't start it, any fights could get both of us expelled from the program. I literally just could not stop replaying this interaction in my head. Why would someone be so rude and vile over a seat in a doctor's office? Like people actually get upset over things this mundane? Seems miserable. Hellfreezer's note, I wonder if she tried to take the seat with her when she left. 2. So I've seen a ton of Karen videos online. You know those clips where people completely lose it over the most random stuff? But I never thought I'd actually witness one in real life, let alone 2 happening at the same time. It was so insane I just had to tell someone about it. After a long stretch of chilly weather, Wisconsin finally decided to throw a warm day my way. So I figured I'd swing by Starbucks for a treat. No rush, just enjoying the sun. I pull into the drive-thru, which is pretty cramped, wedged between 2 buildings. The lane wraps around into the parking lot. As I'm inching closer to the order lane, I spot this silver SUV parked at the exit, blocking everything. It looked like it had seen better days. Rust on the bottom, rubber ducks covering the dashboard, and the back window plastered with a ton of stickers. At first, I thought maybe the driver was just stopping for a second, but after several minutes, it became obvious she wasn't going anywhere. The line behind me started growing, and people were honking left and right. I figured I'd try to help out and rolled down my window. "Hey, if you park in one of those open spots, people could get through, and they might even bring you your coffee," I said. She barely looked at me and snapped,
"I'm not moving until they fix my drink."
I rolled my eyes and went back to waiting. 5 minutes later, a barista brought out a new order, and the SUV Karen started waving her hand and demanding they make it again. By now, the line behind me was really starting to get longer. Then this woman from a minivan, a few cars behind me, who'd clearly had enough of the delay, steps out, walks up to the SUV and starts yelling, "Move your car!" The SUV driver snaps back,
"I'm not going anywhere until they fix my order."
And that's when things started to get out of hand. Things escalated pretty fast from there. The 2 women were yelling at each other through the car window, and SUV Karen shoved her hand in Minivan Karen's face. Minivan Karen tried to open the SUV's door, but it was locked, so she started kicking the door, yelling, "Move your damn car!" At one point, Minivan Karen even tried to climb into the SUV like she was hijacking it, and that's when things took a turn. SUV Karen pushed open the door, almost hitting Minivan Karen. For that move, she tried pulling SUV Karen out of the car. That's when we saw why she hadn't moved yet. SUV Karen had a fake leg. I was caught totally off guard. Turns out she was handicapped and probably relying on a wheelchair, which is why she couldn't get out of the car. Minivan Karen paused for a second, likely surprised by what she saw, but the frustration had really taken over. She wasn't backing down. They kept at it, with Minivan Karen trying to grab the steering wheel from the SUV and SUV Karen slapping her hand away, then yanking a fistful of her hair. It got wild. They were full-on wrestling by the side of the SUV. At one point, Minivan Karen even tried climbing into the car. I just sat there, watching. It felt like something straight out of a ridiculous video game. Crazy moves, insane drama, the whole thing. People started getting out of their cars, some yelling for them to stop, others just recording the chaos, of course. Someone from Starbucks must have called the cops. They showed up pretty quickly. One officer stepped in and pulled them apart, while the other started directing traffic. Minivan Karen was still going off, so they had to put her in the back of the patrol car to cool off, while they wrapped up the scene. As I sat there, just trying to take it all in, I couldn't stop laughing. The whole thing was just so absurd. After it was all over, I figured I'd see if anyone had created a game based on those crazy Karen moments. Sure enough, I found a Kickstarter for a card game called Karen Cards. It looked like the kind of madness I had just witnessed. I've seen my fair share of parking lot drama, but this was on a whole different level. Two grown adults almost throwing hands over a coffee order. I'm still not sure who was in the wrong. The woman in the SUV, definitely. They were both pretty Karen-y, but one was handicapped. Literally not an excuse. And the other was justifiably irritated with the wait. Either way, what a scene. Hellfreezer's note. I do understand that you might want to feel sympathy with the person who was sans leg, but she doesn't want to be treated any differently just because she's a little bit differently abled, and so we're not going to judge her any differently. There was no reason for her to be there, taking up space, delaying everybody's day. And I do understand the frustration of Minivan Karen, but I think getting physical over it is probably not the correct solution. What would have been advisable was just saying, maybe calling the cops and saying, hey, look, we're all at Starbucks, there's a woman deliberately causing an obstruction. And to get the police to move quicker, maybe suggest that she's stolen all the donuts or something, who knows. 3. A few days ago, me and my friends, 4 of us in total, were going to a restaurant. It was quite a long walk on a really narrow sidewalk. To the right of us was a road, to the left, a steep hill. So we were walking in pairs, as it was the only way to fit and stay close enough to walk with each other. The sidewalk was literally 2 people wide, so in order to let someone who was coming towards us pass by, we would get in a line. It's an understandable and logical thing to do, no problems. So a few walking people and even people on e-scooters passed us. Everything is fine until one moment. We almost came to a point where the sidewalk finally becomes a reasonable width. Only a few tens of meters left, and from the wider part, 2 e-bikers are coming towards us. A small clarification. In my country, there are a lot of delivery men on e-bikes. These bikes are pretty big and wide, and their motors are powerful enough to go at a really high speed. So they are required by law to go on the right side of the road, or to at least yield to pedestrians when there is no road. So, back to 2 bikes. One of them just immediately switched to the road. Thanks, dude, you're cool. But the other one, oh my. Did he wait for us to get to the wider part and go along his way? Did he too switch to the road? Did he drop his speed to yield to us? Yield, cyclist, yield! Of course not, as he is the king of the sidewalk. This dude is charging straight towards us and repeatedly and loudly signaling. My friends are not confrontational. They just got into a line, but they had to almost step on the road in order to give way to the king of the sidewalk. But I take absolutely no poops from no soul on this planet. So, you want me to throw myself on the road to give you space on the tiniest sidewalk imaginable? Nah, not happening. I just stopped in the middle and started shouting at him, something that can be translated to, "Why the F are you signaling?" with no intention of yielding. While he didn't expect it at all, I'm a pretty small stature, but my face and voice were full of rage, as my friend said later. You are loud and blocking my way? Then I'll be louder and even bigger. The king of the sidewalk froze for a moment, and after a few seconds of shock, switched to the road. So me and my friends had that microscopic sidewalk to ourselves. Victory. What's even funnier, on our way back, was we saw the king of the sidewalk again at a distance, and when he noticed our group, he quickly changed his path. Maybe it wasn't the nicest way from my side to handle the situation, but what the hell. There are rules for a reason, and the other guy managed to follow them. I wouldn't even be bothered by the king of the sidewalk if there was more space, but there was almost none, and his entitlement boiled my blood. Hellfreezer's note. I'm not sure what country this takes place in, but there are similar rules in the UK. Technically speaking, if you're a cyclist, you're not legally meant to ride on the sidewalk, although the police tend to take a relaxed attitude where if you're cool, you're not being a dick, if you dismount, if there's a lot of pedestrians, or if you're just, getting out of the way if there's pedestrians, i.e. go on the road, they'll leave you be. Something I actually only discovered fairly recently, a few months back now, that I had not, I had been doing it anyway. I always ride sensibly. But now that I know that that's technically the rule, I have been riding on the roads a lot more and discovered that the roads are far better maintained than the pavements. Plus, you do tend to gather a bit more speed when you're on the roads because you're slowing down a bit less for bumpy parts when you're going from one pavement to the other. That being said, I do still ride on the pavements when it's busy because it's safer, and obviously being sensible and respectful and dismounting when there are lots of pedestrians about, which there aren't really at the times I'm out. I've only ever had one problem in all the years where one guy was obsessed with the notion that I could have hit him. I didn't hit him, but I could have. And he was very upset by that. He actually tried to shove me off my bike because I gave him crap for it. People. Oh, people. 4. Back in late January, my friend, now my ex-friend, asked if my kid wanted to join a website project with his kid. He wanted me to be the project's mentor along with him and other parents. He mentioned that his kid had spent around 70 hours on Wix, but was facing many issues. Since I have an engineering background and had been teaching my kid coding for fun, my kid was interested in learning more about the website setup. Something different from the JavaScript and Python he had learned before, so we decided to join. To manage the project properly, I set up Slack, Trello, and Jira. On the first day, my friend's kid called a Jira ticket fixed bugs on website, but without any description. I spent a lot of time teaching the team, 5 kids, including my own, how to properly document their work, adding details, descriptions, UI designs, and other specifics to speed up the process. After the first week in February, tickets were still not updated properly. Some just had a lazy screenshot from Wix with no explanation. I held another training session to show the team why these vague tickets couldn't be developed. At the same time, I set up the development environment, Firebase authentication, Firestore database, and storage. Then I built the website's landing page using Next.js. My kid worked on mockups using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I later ported these to Next.js. During our first weekly meeting, my friend suddenly asked me when I could deliver the website to him. That felt off. I told him the kids needed to study step by step, estimate their work, and then we could create a proper pipeline. By the second week of February, tickets were still unclear and lacking details. My kid asked my friend's kid, "Hey, can you add some more details to the ticket? We can't understand how to develop it." They replied, "I'm busy with homework." then attached a bunch of screenshots to multiple tickets, assigned them to me and my kid, and said we had 1 week to complete them. I told him, no. That's not how software development works. You write tickets clearly, my kid estimates, and then we identify the timeline. He seemed to understand, at first. In the 3rd week of February, tickets got minor updates, just 1 or 2 lines of text. The kid apologized, saying, "Sorry, I have a writing contest." The only significant thing he contributed was a Google form to send to the client. By this point, I had already helped my kid complete 50 to 60% of the work. Then my friend called me again, asking if we could deliver the project in 2 weeks. I asked, where did this 2 weeks deadline come from? He said, "Because I promised the client." I told him, "Then tell your kid to remove some non-essential features for its release." A couple of days later, the kid came back with an updated screenshot, but the only difference was that some lines had been removed. By the 4th week of February, the kid had another excuse. "Sorry, I have cadet." At this point, I was thinking, WTF? Meanwhile, my friend kept pressing me about the delivery date. I finally told him, "I'm a mentor. I help my kid. I'm not the coder responsible for finishing the entire project. My kid also needs time to learn." He then responded, "You can just do the whole thing and your son can learn later." Wow. That's when it became clear. He had invited my son just so that I would do all the work. I called him out in the weekly meeting. "You're not professional if you're expecting a mentor to do all the work. You don't care about the learning process at all." And then he blocked me, unfriended me on social media, and removed me from the meeting group. The kid even told the client that the IT team was causing delays and couldn't deliver the project in 1 month. That was enough for me. I deleted the Jira board, Slack workspace, GitHub code, Vercel deployment, Firebase project, everything. Then unbelievably, the kid asked me to give him the code so he could hire another team with money to finish it in 1 week. What the hell? I just felt sorry for his future. 5. Ooh boy, I had no idea people could be this unaware. My spouse's childhood friend announced a year ago that they were coming to our country and intended to stay with us. We tentatively said okay. Recently, we found out that my mother requires a significant medical procedure, will be hospitalized for a few days to a week, and recovering with us after. The 3 of us live together as roommates, with bills split equally, essentially. This procedure falls smack dab into the middle of spouse's friend's trip. I told my spouse to tell their friend about the circumstances, and that this would severely impact any sightseeing plans we had, and that I would be out for the duration of the trip, between work and taking care of my mom. My spouse's friend, despite driving for many years in their home country, did not want to drive while here, and expected us to ferry them around. I had hoped that, like most normal people, the friend would pick up on the fact that this was not a good time to visit us and make alternate arrangements, i.e. drive a car. But instead they said, "Well, as long as I get to see X while here, I'm fine." I should probably explain that my spouse is a very new driver and just got their license a month ago, and has little experience driving freeways. They were, and still are, terrified of these. I do most of the driving as a result while they're getting comfortable. Said friend arrived on Monday, and since then, expected to be picked up from the airport, a 2-hour drive each way, and spouse, the new driver, had to drive in horrific traffic to get them. I was busy with appointments for my mom and work. Did not offer gas money to my spouse for driving all that way to get them. Expects to be driven to sightsee each day again, never offers gas money or pays for anything. When in our house, has the TV up loud in the one room I enjoy hanging out in, outside of our bedroom. Doesn't pick up after themselves. Has not offered to pay for a single meal. Does not even pay for their own meals or drinks, save for 1 meal, so now we're paying to feed another adult. Should mention that this friend has money, so it is not even a case of not having money. When taken to sightsee, you should have left them there. Never says thank you, and even complained about one place my spouse took them to. Takes long showers without even asking if we need the bathroom before. Does not offer to help with anything in the house. refuses to arrange for their own sightseeing, and is entirely dependent on my spouse, who I'd like to have around to support me during this stressful time, but do not want to be around the friend, so therefore I don't get my spouse. Lectures my spouse on politics and the social norms of our country, despite the fact that my spouse has lived here for 4 years and knows more than said friend does. Friend is a total social drain to be around and only wants to talk about themselves and their thoughts and complaints. Friend has not once said thank you to us for hosting or driving or paying for their meals. Friend is staying for 13 days total, all with us, with the expectation of us driving them. I have social anxiety, spouse knows this, and have had to give up my 2 favorite spaces in the whole house, so the friend has a place to sleep and a place to hang out when they're not in the bedroom. I work from home and had to relocate my work setup, oh hell no, previously in the guest room, to another part of the house, which was and is a major inconvenience as work is crazy right now, and I'm having to balance taking care of my mom with that. The last 6 days have been hell, and I feel like I have no peace in my own home, especially after a long day of having to be social while working, and then having to continue that because of this house guest. The next 6 days will also be hell, as this friend will not take a hint that I've got the stress of dealing with my parent who is having a procedure that has a 10% fatality rate. Given her health conditions, complications could happen. Of course, knowing this friend, they probably would not take the hint then either, and would probably still expect my spouse to drive them places. As it is, my spouse asked if they and the friend should come up to the hospital to visit my mom, to which I said my spouse should, but not if the friend is going to be clinging to them like a sad puppy. Why are they even friends with this person? It sounds like they have no redeeming features. I have talked to my spouse, and they agree that the friend is a drain. They are not happy either, but they're trying to stick it out until the friend leaves, and have already said the friend will not be allowed to stay here again. Yay! It is clear to me that the friend is massively taking advantage of my spouse, and I hate to see it. I'm just flabbergasted that people like this even exist, as every other house guest we've ever had has been considerate, occupies themselves, arranges for their own transportation, and genuinely seems to care about our lives as we care about theirs. This friend is one of the most entitled people I have ever had the displeasure of meeting. And just to clarify a few things, I am not paying for anything for the friend. I put my foot down. My spouse is paying from his own funds. 2, I told my spouse that I thought their friend should make an alternate arrangement after I found out about Mom's procedure, and that I was in no place mentally or emotionally to have someone staying with us. 3, I told my spouse that at the very least, friend needs to drive themselves, not put all that burden on them, and I need my spouse to be there to support me at the hospital. I did try to cancel this friend coming here, but it fell on deaf ears. Thanks to kind words and tough love to the original post on Reddit, it gave me the courage to finally stand up for myself in this situation, rather than just shutting up and taking it. Excellent. My spouse now better understands how they screwed up and how to fix it. We have a plan to move forward. Things aren't perfect, but I feel more optimistic. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 194. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and subscribe if you be so good. That lets YouTube know that you enjoyed the video, and that they should recommend it to other people. I love it when they do that, because more people watch them, then I can make more videos. Okay. If you would like to support the channel, you can do that by signing up for my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. $1 a month goes a long way. And you'll also find a link to my merchandise store in the description. Also, you can leave a tip for this or any other video by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath the video and selecting the tip of your choice. None of that is required, but I sure do appreciate it. Okay. No more business today, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: those of you who have a microwave, how often do you use it? I realize while I would not like to be without my microwave, I don't use it that often. It occurred to me the other day as I started buying packets of microwavable rice again. I go, every now and again, I'll be like, oh, that's convenient, I'll buy that. So I'll buy that and I'll have it with fish or something. But mostly I just use it for heating. It's essentially a soup heater in my microwave. Because the thing, I used to buy microwavable burgers and just various other things, everything you really could at one point. But yeah, it's essentially just for heating up soup, mostly. Except, as I say, I wouldn't want to be without it. If it comes out of a can, it can probably be heated in the microwave. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Idiots in the Wild 193. Sorry, I did lose the answers on the video originally. I'd messed up 2 stories. I was recording bits and bobs for 2 separate videos. I had a bunch of stories on my desktop. I mixed the stories up for 2 different videos. And then when it was pointed out to me, I realized, okay, I have to delete both those videos. One was Bad Roommates, one was Idiots in the Wild. So to fix those, re-upload the videos, which meant I lost most of the original comments. But we do have one answer to the question of the day, thanks to Grey Warden Invasion. And the question is, what is the oddest thing you've done lately? And the answer the Grey Warden gave is... I had that a second ago. I'm so organized today. Here we are. It's less the activities themselves being odd, and rather the things that gave me the motivation to them. Who would have thought that video games would be the motivation to get more serious with keeping up my fitness? And not even fitness games. The Metal Gear series already gave me the motivation to work on my strength a while ago, sure. I would never look as ripped as Snake, but I'd already have to at least look somewhat more toned. And now recently Team Fortress 2, Scout from TF2 more precisely, gave me the motivation to run. So far it's just running around everywhere in my apartment, as I absolutely don't feel comfortable to go jogging in public. Not even a fitness center. It's not like there's anything actually dangerous to be afraid of, and more like general social anxiety. But I have started to look into getting a treadmill. Thank you very much for your answer, Grey Warden Invasion, and I can vouch for the treadmill. I have one. Just gradually getting back into it after I had that fall a good few weeks back now. Everything's functional, it's just, some things are a bit sore, but, they're healing and they're functional, so I can get back on the treadmill and make sure I'm getting some exercise and just kind of getting used to the thing and trying to use it while sort of walking like free-armed, because that's how the Fitbit counts your steps, because if you're not swinging your arms, it's not counting your steps. So just building up my confidence and practice with that. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.